And ABC's Jay O'Brien joins me live now from Capitol Hill for more. Jay, how are lawmakers reacting to this disaster?
Yeah, Diane, we heard from Donald Payne Jr., who's a congressman who chairs the House subcommittee that oversees pipelines and railroads and hazardous material. He tweeted that he's watching the situation closely and looking at ways to prevent stuff like this going forward. But it runs up against an issue that's confronted House Democrats and House Republicans for quite some time, which is that House Republicans are going to take power in the House come January, and they want to see more domestic oil production and fewer regulation because they feel that the Biden administration has not done enough to encourage domestic oil production. So any prevention, any kind of additional regulation that would come out of this that you might see pushed by House Democrats would run up against that House GOP majority in just a few weeks from now.
Now, Congress, meanwhile, is up against a deadline to fund the government by Friday or face a potential shutdown. Where do those negotiations stand?
Well, they've been playing out over the course of the weekend. Previously, last week, they were considered stalled. We saw some signs from Democratic leaders in both the House and the Senate that talks were still ongoing, that they might have been a little bit more promising, but still they have that Friday deadline. What's likely to happen next is that lawmakers are going to punt and kick the can down the road till just before the holidays, December 23rd, give themselves a little bit more breathing room to come to a deal. But if they can't come to a deal by then, they still have until January 3rd to come up with an overall funding plan. And even if they can't do that, they've got to create some stopgap measure for the new year. So what we're watching this week is how do lawmakers position themselves to punt, in a sense, to January 23rd? Or if they can't come to a deal, even on a punt, do they stumble into some kind of a potential shutdown, Diane?
And meanwhile, Republican House Leader Kevin McCarthy is struggling to get the votes that he needs to be the next Speaker of the House. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, he needs 218 votes to become the next Speaker of the House. Republicans have 222 seats in the new Congress come January. That is their majority, and it's a slim majority. On January 3rd, the first day of the new Congress, there will be a vote on the House floor to pick the new Speaker of the House, and 5 Republicans have already said they will not back McCarthy in that vote. If those 5 stick together, that could be potentially fatal for McCarthy's bid to become the next Speaker. He's working on getting votes. He's working on those 5 lawmakers in addition to shoring up all the other lawmakers, according to sources that I've been speaking with. But the question remains, those Republicans who don't want Kevin McCarthy as Speaker, who is their alternative? There have been a few names, but Republicans largely have not coalesced around another name other than Kevin McCarthy. So the next thing that's going to happen here is you're going to watch this fight play out likely on the House floor come January 3rd, unless Kevin McCarthy is able to do some work over the holidays to shore up his House Republican conference, Diane.
Now, the House January 6th committee is finalizing its report before the new Republican majority takes over. So can we expect to see any criminal referrals in that report?
Well, that report likely to come out before Christmas. There's going to be some kind of public event for that on December 23rd or December 21st, excuse me. Criminal referrals are an open question. So we heard Benny Thompson, the chair of the January 6th committee not long ago, say that the committee had decided to make referrals and then he walked that back. There's a likelihood that there are some criminal referrals that come out of this committee, particularly for former President Trump, who the committee has made painstaking efforts over its many public hearings to say they believe committed illegal actions in trying to overturn the 2020 election and tied to the Capitol riot. Do they formalize that in some kind of referral to the Department of Justice? It seems likely, but it's still unclear. It's worth pointing out, though, Diane, any criminal referral that goes from the January 6th committee to the Department of Justice would largely be symbolic because the DOJ is already conducting this sprawling investigation into January 6th, into the former president's efforts to overturn the election, over into his allies' efforts to do the same. And there's a special prosecutor now that's both looking into those documents, those classified documents that were seized at Mar-a-Lago, but also the former president's ties to January 6th and efforts to overturn the election. So there's a lot of work already being done on the Department of Justice's end that a criminal referral would just add to, and again, would be largely symbolic because those efforts have been ongoing.
Got it. All right, Jay O'Brien on Capitol Hill. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.